Goes on to say that that's coming from several high-ranking FBI officials, that information. Let's bring in our special Sunday night panel. Katie Pavlich, news editor at townhall.com. Zeke Miller, political reporter for Time. Heidi Przybyla, senior political reporter for USA Today. And Tucker Carlson, host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Okay, just tying this all together, Katie, obviously we're talking about the Clinton classification emails investigation, but there's also, according to Fuentes and others, a Clinton Foundation investigation that never stopped.
Well, and I think that brings up big questions about what happens if Hillary Clinton indeed wins on Election Day on November 8th, because not only do you now have this new investigation with the emails that were recently found as the October surprise, but I doubt that the FBI is going to come forward this week and say, this is what we have found about the Clinton Foundation. So if she wins on November 8th, there's another investigation from the FBI about her foundation, and it also brings up questions about whether the Clintons will shut the foundation down. They've been very unclear about whether there were severed ties with the foundation should Hillary Clinton assume office next week.
Zeke?
You know, a lot of investigations don't go anywhere. Certainly, that's one of the reasons why you often hear the FBI say they don't comment on ongoing investigations. This is one where it's been going on for a very long time, according to all the reporting that's been out there. So it's not totally clear whether or not they will ever find anything that will. That would potentially be problematic. That said, it's just add it to the list of things that are hanging over the Clinton campaign right now. This is yet another instance where the Clintons have sort of opened themselves up to this sort of scrutiny, and that's going to be a political problem for her, even if it's not a legal one.
Yeah, Heidi, you hear in Senator Reid's letter tonight that this Russian, they're not investigating the Russian connection, and obviously these WikiLeaks emails do shed some light in foundation connections with the Clintons, and do tell us a few things, including that detailed Doug Band memo from Teneo.
We've learned a lot about just how much this Teneo company has served as essentially the connective tissue between Bill Clinton's for-profit activities and the foundation itself. And while there may not be evidence, we're not lawyers, but there may not be evidence of classic quid pro quo, there certainly is a lot of access going on, and there certainly is these companies, including Dow Chemical, Coca-Cola, having successfully lobbied the State Department on things that were important to them. That said, there's nothing in the emails themselves that says if you do X, I do Y. It's very hard to kind of prove that thing, to prove things like that, but it does show that there was a lot of kind of interactions between the foundation donors and Bill Clinton's for-profit activities.
Tucker, how do people digest this? We see these polls tightening, but is it a result of this, and do people digest all of this? Are they able to?
Well, they've moved dramatically. I mean, they've moved many points in the last 7 days, and I don't think it's because of this. I think it's because of, to some extent, the WikiLeaks revelations, but I really think it's because of Obamacare. I mean, people's premiums are actually rising. It's not working. That hurts Hillary. Obviously, she was the intellectual architect of Obamacare. But my heart goes out to Democratic primary voters who actually had something of a choice. They had O'Malley and they had Bernie. We learned in the Wall Street Journal, I didn't know this, I followed it pretty closely, there are multiple investigations. 4 different FBI field offices have been looking into the Clinton Foundation for some time. I didn't know that. I don't think anybody else knew that. So you have the candidate's closest aide, Huma Abedin. You have her best friend and longtime fundraiser, Terry McAuliffe, governor of Virginia, the subject of investigations. And you have personally, she's the subject of at least 2, her family foundation and her emails. Shouldn't Democratic primary voters have known more about this when they were making this choice? Where was the press in that? I mean, honestly.
All right, so we are 9 days, and now you have a map of where the candidates are that usually tells us a lot about what they're focusing on. Donald Trump today, Nevada, Colorado, New Mexico, Mike Pence, New Hampshire, Indiana, Hillary Clinton in Florida, solely Florida, 2 events, Tim Kaine in Michigan. Which is interesting, defending Michigan. Tomorrow, quickly, Trump is in Michigan, Pence is in Florida for 3 events, Hillary Clinton's in Ohio for 2 events, and Kaine is in North Carolina. What do you gather from that, Katie?
Well, the polling in a lot of these states is tightening, as we've seen, but it seems like Donald Trump isn't going to be able, at least in some of the states like Pennsylvania, to be able to close that gap. Now, it is interesting that Tim Kaine is in Michigan, thinking that we have to defend this blue-collar type vote that we thought we were going to get. The labor unions have backed them there, but they have to make sure that they don't blow it at the end just because they've had a lead up to this point. Hillary Clinton has lost 12 points over the past 2 weeks as a result of many different things, and there are still a lot of undecided voters in some of these swing states states. However, Donald Trump has a long way to go. I think the Colorado numbers are interesting, considering Donald Trump hasn't led there, but he's catching up. It's now 42-39 in that state. We're seeing that he's ahead in Florida. He's still holding on to Ohio, and so there is still a chance for him to lock this down, but it's going to be very difficult if he can't close the gap in Pennsylvania.
And Heidi, tonight he's in New Mexico. I mean, that's a traditionally blue state.
Because as much as he may be closing the top line number, the national number, we hold elections. Our elections are based on electoral votes and the battleground map. And he not only has to win all the swing states, and that includes Florida and Ohio, but he's got to take something away from her. He's got to take a blue state, and that's
Could
why.
be Nevada.
Right. Well, that's why you're seeing him start to go on the offense more in some of these blue states. They don't know yet what the fallout is going to be in the polling. We might not know till Election Day, but they've got to go on the offense as well and take something away from her. It's not enough just to win the swing states.
She's going to Arizona, Zeke, but that was announced before all of this broke. And I'm wondering your sense of where the Clinton campaign is with their head about the fallout from all this.
If in their mind they're seeing, obviously, in the numbers tied nationally, their entire strategy over the last several weeks has been about the early vote. That's part of the reason why she was in Florida today, why Tim Kaine was in Michigan. As Katie was saying, this is about not giving up on the state, trying to bank some of those votes early to make sure that the outcome on Election Day, the votes cast on Election Day will be mitigated by all the ones that have been banked already so far in the early vote. Going to Arizona is an easy early vote state for her to pick up some momentum, put Donald Trump on a bit of defense. But also, once that was announced, they couldn't roll that back. It's all about confidence. And if it looked like she was on the defensive, so much of campaigning is about the messaging. If it looked like she had to cancel that trip to go spend some more time in Virginia, at this point of the campaign, candidate time matters a lot less than organization. And she has the luxury of having an organization. Donald Trump doesn't have that. He needs to go to states to get people to register to vote and turn out to vote. Hillary Clinton has people who can do that for her, so she can go to Arizona and make a messaging play, while Donald Trump might need to go to some of these blue states in order to do the heavy lifting himself.
I do want to play this because there's all this talk about how dare Comey get involved in something before an election,
right, and
uproar about that. This is Bill Clinton in 1992, 3 days before the election against George H.W. Bush, when the independent prosecutor Lawrence Walsh had decided to re-indict Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger.
Today's disclosure that President Bush knew and approved of the arms for hostages deal with Iran not only directly contradicts the president's claims, it diminishes the credibility of the presidency. But the far more important thing is whether for 5 years he's been telling the American people something about his conduct of foreign policy as vice president, which was simply not true.
And obviously Bill Clinton went on to win, Tucker. That indictment was later thrown out.
Yeah,
and
I covered that race. I remember that well.
Bush was discredited.
And Republicans sort of beat their head again. I can't believe they're still mad about it, by the way. A lot of Republicans in town are still mad about Walsh's maneuvering in the last moments, but, it was one of the factors that helped him win. I'll just say quickly about the state of the polls. I think probably 90% of the words politicians utter in October of an election year are lies, so you can discount them. But here's kind of what we know. Trump has never been more popular. His approval rating is higher today than it has been at any time in this campaign. Okay, that's the first thing. By a tenth of a point, but still. His numbers have moved dramatically in the last week, and more to the point, the Clinton people are worried about Pennsylvania. How do you know that? Because they're going there. And as of Friday night, they were sending a bunch of well-heeled volunteers from New York to Pennsylvania to go door to door. That's not the kind of thing you do in a state you're totally confident of. It doesn't mean they're going to lose Pennsylvania. I've always assumed they're going to win it. But they wouldn't do that if they weren't concerned. So that's the kind of thing you look at rather than their public pronouncements,
I would say. Very quickly, if you're Hillary Clinton's camp, what's the upside tonight? Is there a silver lining here that you're looking at numbers?
I think a lot of people are predisposed to just kind of have this news not change their basic impressions, just because a lot of people have already decided if you're a Democrat, you think this is just a last-minute dirty trick and that nothing's going to come out of these emails. And if you're a Republican, you think, oh, these are the deleted emails that we've been looking for all along. And so in terms of the people in the middle, I just don't know that there's enough. We're going to have to see how it comes.
And if you're in Trump's camp, Katie, you look at this and say, there's a chance.
Absolutely, there's a chance. I mean, Hillary Clinton's Achilles heel is her secrecy, non-transparency, and the idea that people think that she's a liar. But the upside for the Clinton campaign is that 71% of people, according to polling taken over the weekend, don't think that the James Comey decision to reopen the investigation will affect their vote.
We will see as the polls change.